Well, who's on first?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I'm asking
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
you. You ain't telling me nothing. I'm asking you who's on first.
That's it.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first base.
That's his name.
That's whose name?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I'm asking you who's on first.
That's it.
You're listening to TV Ate My Dinner. This is episode 11. My name is Sean, and I am sitting here with Brooks.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, pretty good. Thanks for asking. Sup, America? How you doing?
For all the Starkies out there, Greg is on a secret mission of some kind. He couldn't give us details, but it did slip out that it had something to do with the Andes Mountains, some kind of missile base. I don't know.
Apparently, the long and the short of it is not on the show.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
once
I don't
again,
think he's
you
actually.
loyal Starkies. What can we do?
I think he's actually just like working in a service kind of capacity, like waiting tables or something for this mission. I don't think he's doing anything dangerous, so don't worry. I think
You're like a day job, like a contract job. Really less of a mission by the moment. As the more we describe it, less interesting as we go.
Do we have a movie from the vault?
Movies from the vault. We were going to talk about comedies at some point. We did have a theme in mind. So I was going to mention The Corn Dog Man.
Oh yes.
I don't know. Have you ever heard of this movie?
I saw this movie back with you in college or whatever. Isn't that the one with?
Oh, did I show you this movie?
I think I've seen it. Is that the one where
With
the guy
the prank call
grows
guy?
an arm out of his back or something weird?
No. How weird. No, that's The Dark Backward.
The Dark Backward. Well, what's The Corn Dog Man? I'm
That's an
confused now.
That's an interesting wire crossing you got. That is a movie from the vault. Because that one's great. Where Judd Nelson's trying to be he's like a garbage man who tries to be a stand-up comedian, but he's like completely unfunny. And then one day, through some kind of twist of fate or industrial accident or whatever, he just inadvertently grows an arm out of his back. And then he gets an agent, and then he goes on tour. He's still not funny, but people go see him just because he has a third arm.
Yeah, he just like tells a joke and then just slowly spins around and shows the arm, and everyone claps.
It's a sad, grotesque, that movie. I'm not even sure if it's funny, but it's definitely entertaining. It's weird. But no, The Corn Dog Man this movie was a big movie at Sundance, but it's not like The Dark Backward at all. It's a streamlined movie. It's really about this guy starts prank calling this Noble Willingham, who's a really good actor, and he plays this dude who works at a boating store, like a marine store, and suddenly he starts getting these prank calls from this guy, and they start out somewhat harmless, but the whole movie is just these prank calls, and they start getting progressively like more aggressive and interesting, weird, and more of the backstory of why he's doing it starts getting revealed, and it's very cool, and it's really funny in places, but it's also really serious.
It doesn't sound like a comedy.
Well, I mean, then there's corn dogs in there.
Well, corn dogs are just naturally funny.
So.
Maybe I have seen this because it sounds really familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. Is this something we can you can rent now on DVD?
I would think so. I haven't tried it. I don't know.
We got to stop recommending movies that are not available. You really need to see this movie that is not available. One of these days, the guy that made that movie is going to email us and go, I know, thank you.
Andrew Shea, by the way.
Thank you for pointing out that my movie is cool. No one notices.
The man who made that movie's name was Andrew Shea. We wanted to talk about comedies, I guess, tonight, since we have to have a theme and a topic.
Yeah, I was thinking we should talk about stuff that people might not know. I mean, that they've probably heard of, but maybe haven't seen. So I was going to start with Ghostbusters. And then maybe Airplane.
I've heard of this movie. I don't know if you've seen it. Called Caddyshack? Perhaps
American
you've heard
Pie.
of it. For all you kids out there, it is 20-year-old movie, so you probably haven't seen Caddyshack, which is even more embarrassing for me.
God, I barely remember that. I don't remember liking Caddyshack, frankly. I think it's overrated.
I'm all right. No one's got to worry about
Well, I will
me.
say
Come
that my
on.
favorite
What is it,
movie,
The Groundhog? Is that the movie
besides
where Bill Murray is chasing the groundhog?
besides
Gopher.
Star Wars and stuff, of course, and Lord of the Rings and whatever, my favorite movie is probably Bottle Rocket.
Okay, escape route is crucial, just in case somebody is tailing us or even chasing us, as the case may be. We can't be sure how it is going to happen.
Do you think that we're
but
going to be chased tonight? Is that a possibility?
That's a good question. No, I don't think we're going to be chased. I'm just being hypocritical here. However, I will say, Bob, please don't interrupt me, man, because I'm trying to stay focused on this stuff. You're responsible for the external situation tomorrow, streets and the getaway.
Whoa, excuse me. Are the explosives really necessary here? I think it'd be a lot more simple if I just walk up to the door alone. I think that would be...
Why are you undermining me, man?
How much bullets does this thing take?
Bob,
Look,
please,
I'm paying
man.
attention. God damn it! You're not paying attention if you're messing around with the gun. Now quit. Anthony, just keep the gun on the table.
Look, Dignity,
I
relax.
can't
Look,
focus
it's not
unless
your
the gun
gun,
is on
it's
the
all
table.
of ours.
Will you
I
just
paid for it.
Shut up, man. Shut up. I'm warning you now. Be quiet, please. It's true, Dignant.
I paid for the gun.
Say it again. Say it one more time. Say it again. Repeat what you just said.
I paid for the gun.
He's out. You're out too. And I don't think
Calm
I'm in
down,
either.
okay? Just calm
No
down.
gang.
It's Wes Anderson's first movie. He's got a new movie coming out. All you artsy kids know who he is, but this is his only non-artsy movie, and it's my favorite one by far. It's not a cynical, dark movie like all his others. It's a very light, breezy. It's like sunshine in a bottle. It makes you feel good when you watch it.
Well,
It's
that's
got-
the name, Bottle Rocket. It's
Yeah.
It was such a great name for that movie because that's what it is.
It's got all the Wilson brothers, Owen, Luke, and their other brother. I don't remember his name.
Future Man.
Future Man. It's got.
There's
it's
a
just
funny thing about Future Man in the movie. They always call him Future Man in that movie, but they don't say why. But I was reading later on, Owen was talking about how in real life they call him Future Man because his head is so big and his features are so pronounced that they used to joke that he was like a man from the future, like the evolved human
really?
being, because he
That's
looks like the future man.
I didn't know that. That's neat. But it's great. It's Owen Wilson doing his shtick, and now when you see it, you're like, yeah, that's Owen Wilson doing his shtick. But at the time, that was a brand new thing. You'd never seen Owen Wilson before because he was a nobody. This is the first thing any of them did, and it's just brilliant. Ever since then, it seems like every movie he's done, he's trying in some way or another to kind of recapture that same magic,
yeah.
but it's never been as good in my opinion. And I still love Owen Wilson and everything he does. But if you like Owen Wilson and you haven't seen this, you should, because in my mind, this is the quintessential Owen Wilson character. This is him.
No. Son of a bitch! Anthony! Bob's gone! He stole his car! That little coward, that son of a bitch! He flew the coop while we were sleeping. He has no character, man!
You know what I like about Bottle Rocket 2 for Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson is that, they were nobodies when they made the movie. They weren't what you would consider iconic or sex symbols or whatever, especially
Lord, no.
Owen. He's kind of awkward looking.
Yeah.
And he does this great thing where he's got the weird sort of crew cut haircut and all that. And he wears
bright orange.
he wears like
flowered
white
shirts.
socks and brown shoes and stuff. He's just an awkward looking little fella in that movie. Not what you would consider a guy who would become a big movie star or a sex symbol later on. But that's what you kind of like about it. It's all about underdogs. His character in that Dignan is such an underdog that you're not even sure if you are rooting for him or not, but you can't help it.
The story is essentially that these kids that have nothing going for them, and the one played by Owen Wilson, Dignan, his dream, for whatever reason, is to be like a big famous criminal gangster guy. So he keeps hatching up these really elaborate plots trying to get in with these actual real crime people. And that's essentially, you just follow their adventures as they goof around.
And it really is very small in the things that they do. And
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's the only Wes Anderson movie that I really find to be relatable. Like
Well-
everyone could watch Bottle Rocket and get it because they're all just
And I'll tell
they
you
have
why.
this ridiculous dream and they do silly things.
It's because they're not rich and they're not famous people. What I don't like about all of Wes Anderson's other movies, all of them, is that they're around these rich and or famous people. They're about people that live in fancy New York high-rises and hang out with celebrities and just talk about how droll and uninteresting their life is because they're so rich and famous. You can't relate to any of those people, but in Bottle Rocket, these guys are losers. Even the guys that do have money in the movie are just pathetic. But it's
Yeah,
so
and
endearing
everybody
because
gets that.
they're so innocent, they're so genuine. I think the Dignan as a character is so endearing and he's so exuberant about the things he wants to do, and it's catchy, it's fun,
I know.
and it's so
even
quotable.
at the very end, he gets they botch the job completely, and he gets caught, and he's like, "We did it, guys," because he got put in jail. Like he's completely legitimized. No one can say Dignan isn't a criminal. They put him in jail. There is no greater validation of his dream that they actually bothered to arrest him.
Man, some of the lines in that are so quotable. So if you're into quoting movies, I would definitely I check it out. I highly recommend
If
it.
you
It's
like
my favorite
movies
movie.
at all.
What the hell are you wearing?
Yeah.
It's a jumpsuit. Clay, look at this guy. He looks like a rodeo clown. He looks like a little banana. Where are you from anyway, man? I'm from around here. This guy used to mow our lawn. No shit. Yeah, he was great. Clipping the hedges, sweeping up, mowing the lawn. What was the name of your little lawn mowing company?
The Lawn Wranglers?
Let's go. Keep up the mowing, Kimasabi.
It's landscaping, not just mowing.
Man, don't listen to that guy.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm not always as confident as I look.
Did you see what he had on?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
He looks
Yeah,
like a
if you
little
haven't seen
banana.
Bottle Rocket and you like movies, then you're just wasting your time. Because even though they became famous, that was true back before those guys became famous, but even more so now.
So check that out. That's my first suggestion. What do you got?
Well, I'll say one that people have seen a bunch, but I say this because I think it was an underdog in coming, which is The Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah.
When that movie came out, I think a lot of people, it was their follow-up, the Coen brothers, that was their follow-up to Fargo, and everyone's like, what is this? But I think the brilliance of it it reveals itself more and more throughout the years, and
Oh.
upon subsequent viewing,
No
you start
doubt.
to realize this may be their best movie ever.
I'd much rather watch
Definitely
that
their
than
funniest.
Fargo now.
Yeah, The Big Lebowski is just, and they made a lot of funny movies. Raising Arizona was theirs. That was a very funny movie. The Hudsucker Proxy, which is my personal favorite of the Coen brothers
Oh, really?
movies. That was a very funny movie. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? They made that later.
I'd have to say
That's
Oh
a great
Brother is
movie.
my favorite of their movies, but
I think
Lebowski's
that's
right up
the
there.
Southern thing. I think being from the South, people, because I watched that we watched that at the Lucas Theater here in Savannah. They did a showing of that, and people were cheering because I think it's such a movie about Southern mythology that, without making fun of it, it lampoons certain aspects of the South, but it doesn't lampoon the South.
Yeah.
And I think people from the South, a lot of people from outside the South probably think the Southerners watch that movie and hate it, but that's actually not true. I find at all, because I think it lampoons the very aspects of the South that Southerners hate also.
Using a
So
Confederate
I think
flag
for
as a
you and
missile.
me, yeah, we're a Jasper.
That movie is very quotable
some
too,
you-
man. That
it's
and
great,
Lebowski.
sir. Some of your folding money's come unstole. And the bills are just flying out the window.
That and Lebowski
You're
are both great, but I do agree that Lebowski's underrated. I mean, with its audience, with the people that love Lebowski, of course it's not. I mean, there is that cult following that is really into it, but with the average person, they probably saw it once and said, "This movie's kind of stupid." They didn't see the subtle beauty of, talk about Americana. I mean, it starts with a bowling alley, and it's got a cowboy. It's really just an American movie. explores
in
the
every
film
way.
noir.
The plot structure is a film noir. I mean, it's the Big Lebowski, plot-wise, is taken straight out of like The Big Sleep. It's taken straight out of Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler stories, because it's all about like this sort of this guy who's from the underbelly and ends up courting like these rich people and working for them and getting involved in their intrigues. But in the Big Lebowski, it's not some detective, it's just some guy who falls into it by accident, and he's the ultimate American guy. His name is the Dude. And he's a complete slacker. He has no business being involved in anything. And just when they're done with it, sure, they get a cowboy to narrate the thing, just so it's all American. Just so we leave no stone unturned in American cinema. We have to have that element of Western movies, too, where Sam Elliott, the ultimate cowboy actor, comes in and narrates the movie as a cowboy. And that's the best. The Dude.
I don't like some of the sequences, the little musical dream sequences and stuff. That slows the movie down. I can see where they're coming from, trying to do these artsy little montages. But other than that, I think the movie's straight up awesome.
Yeah, and funny from start to finish,
yeah.
which is hard to do. Those guys are the greatest dialogue writers ever. John Goodman has all the good lines.
No.
You're out of your element, Donnie!
That's my favorite John Goodman character ever, by far. I mean, if Dignan in Bottle Rocket is the ultimate Wes Anderson, I would say that Walter and Lebowski is the ultimate John Goodman character, in my opinion. Not that I've seen. I haven't seen the Flintstones. So I gotta say, so I could be out of my element here. Just like
You're like a child who enters in the middle of a conversation.
You're entering a world of pain.
What's interesting about that is a lot of people got mad because Fargo was so critically acclaimed, and they followed up with Lebowski. But actually, they wanted to do Lebowski before that, and they had to wait because they wanted John Goodman and they wanted Jeff Bridges, and they had to wait for a time where they were both available to get them both in that movie.
Well, it worked out.
So really, that was the first movie. They just made Fargo while they were waiting to do that one.
I think it's awesome. I agree.
For all you pretentious critics out there.
Very cool.
And also, let's not forget Howard the Duck.
Now, I've never seen Howard the Duck. Actually,
I'm not sure. I just wanted to mention Howard the Duck. I'm not sure as a comedy I would say that's one of the underrated funny movies, but I like it.
It's a universally panned movie, so if it's good at all, it probably is underrated.
I feel like defending it. Yeah, a movie that is rated as low as that one, just the odds that it's underrated. I mean, come on.
It has 0 good ratings.
Almost below the bottom. They almost dug a hole for Howard the Duck. What a weird idea. I mean, come on. What mainstream audience is going to accept Howard the Duck?
Isn't there a scene
I'm a fan
where
of the original Howard the Duck comic.
That's implied that he gets it on with a human girl or whatever? Isn't there a scene?
Just can't seem to find the right man.
Maybe it's not a man you should be looking for.
You think I might find happiness in the animal kingdom, Ducky?
Like they say, Dal. Love's strange. We could always give it a try.
Okay. Let's go for it, Mr. Macho.
What do you mean? Okay, it was a joke. Listen, I'm pretty tired.
It's just that you're so incredibly soft and cuddly.
Bev, let's be realistic. I mean, my apartment's zillions of miles from here. You're 3 feet taller than I am.
I just can't resist your intense animal magnetism.
Whoops.
That's kind of weird. What did George Lucas have to do with that? I've never understood this.
He was like the executive producer. This is also an interesting story. Back in 1976, when Howard the Duck, the comic book, was very popular, Lucas and a couple of his buddies actually were fans and thought it wouldn't be neat to make a movie of that. And this is pre-Star Wars. And then later on, much later on, 1986, I think is when they actually made the movie. They got their chance and they make this movie, and everyone's like, I don't know why they did that. That's crazy. And even the Howard the Duck comic book people are like, that wasn't true to the Howard the Duck comic, which is just, that's the biggest slap in the face to Lucas.
Well, it may be true.
And so everyone sweeps it under the rug. I am a huge Howard the Duck comic book fan.
Oh yeah.
I have the Howard the Duck issues.
I've
You know what I
never read
mean?
that
Like I
either.
used to collect the actual comic. You know? So I feel like I'm on a pretty good plane to judge Howard the Duck and how well it adapted the story of Howard the Duck.
He really lost the soul of that character.
Yeah, I think they captured the essence of what they were required to capture in the movie. It's just a weird story, and it didn't make a lot of money, and so everybody always pans it. But if you watch it, I think it's a lot of fun. To this day, I can watch Howard the Duck, and I find it to be extremely entertaining.
Well, I'll check it out.
So,
I haven't seen
whatever.
it. So
What's your next? What do you think makes the
I
cut
would say
for
Fear of a Black
comedy?
Hat, which I know you're
Yeah,
familiar with.
I do like that one.
It's essentially a ripoff of Spinal Tap in almost every way, but I think in a lot of ways it's
well
it's
done.
funnier than Spinal Tap. It takes the Spinal Tap story and it applies it to rappers in I guess the early
I
to
think
mid '90s.
they found a deeper well in
Yeah.
rappers.
Well, there's certainly a lot to make fun of there, especially at that time.
Now, why do you need all these guns?
Well, you see, guns, when they talk about gun control, they talking about taking away our guns so they can control us. It ain't that kind of party. So I'ma be packing and strapping cause teeth ain't napping.
What's this one? What is that?
This is a very good choice, little chickadee. You got eyes for this. This is a Uzi, fully automatic.
I guess you have to really know what you're doing to use one of those.
Nah, this is a good jammy for beginners. I mean, this is better than those autofocus cameras. You just spray the area.
Do you know the caliber of all these guns?
Yeah, this one here is for little motherfuckers. This one here is for a couple more motherfuckers. And this here is for big motherfuckers.
To me, it's funnier in some ways. It's hard to say it's funnier in Spinal Tap, but Spinal Tap's such a subtle thing.
I think it's broader. I think more people would probably enjoy Fear of a Black Hat and get the idea of it, especially now, because it's still relevant when you're talking about rappers and what makes them famous. Because, you know, what were they were talking about, you know, NWA and all that kind of stuff.
There's lots of
With that movie.
thinly veiled references to all kinds of real bands, which you didn't get in Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap was not making fun of any particular band. It's just kind of a generic metal thing.
No,
you know?
they did a really good job, and so well, in fact, that Spinal Tap sometimes is actually remembered as its own band because they did their own songs for that movie.
And the songs they did in
So
Fear of a Black Hat,
they did such a good job that
are actual parodies
it wasn't even a
of
parody. Some
actual
people-
songs. So it's different in that respect. But they go through a lot of the similar plot elements where they'll bring a girl in and the girl causes drama between the two main dudes and stuff, just like in Spinal Tap. But it's a really funny movie. You should definitely check it out. It's very much underrated, I think, because it's very clever. I guess maybe because it was a rip-off of Spinal Tap, it didn't get its proper respect.
I think it may have come out too soon. I think if a movie like Fear of Black Hat came out now, it would be much better. They should do a big DVD re-release of that movie. I bet they get a lot of response because that phenomenon is still going strong.
And all the guys in it are really funny.
What's fun about that is Rusty Cundiff, the guy who does that movie, the guy who directed that movie, who didn't do much else visibly since then. He started doing some stuff for Chappelle's Show. Later on, he did some of the funnier when they did the Real World spoof on Chappelle's Show. He directed that.
He's really good in the movie,
and that was one of the first breakout sketches in the first season.
He
of
acts
Chappelle's
in this movie. He's like the main character too, and he's really funny in it. And so are the other dudes. All three of the main guys in it are really good. And it's a shame that you haven't seen them in more stuff. One of the guys is the dude from Space Camp. But for the most part,
there's a guy. One of the guys is from Iron Eagle.
And I've seen like that other guy. He's been in a Burger King commercial and stuff. You see him every now and then. These weird random things. But it's a shame they haven't done more because they're really funny. I don't know. They just haven't gotten their shot. But I'm trying to push it out there. So if you guys go check it out, show it to your friends. Maybe we can get these guys some work. For all I know,
Get the movement started.
They're probably in some huge movie right now that I'm not aware of because I'm not really tuned into the world. But it's a great movie. It's got yet again a lot of funny quotable lines. That's one of the things I like about it. If for me a comedy's good if you can quote it later with other people that have seen it and they laugh too. They're like, oh yeah, that's great.
Well, especially if it sort of creates its own vernacular. Like these colloquialisms will get created in movies, and people will start using the lines, and everyone knows what they're saying. It's a strange pop culture code.
Yeah, that's the problem with some of these movies
that's-
like we're talking about now, is that not a lot of people have seen them, so you go quoting it to people that don't know it, and they just look at you like you're crazy.
That's your way of sniffing out the cool
Yeah.
people.
Or looking like a weirdo.
But
to
that
the uncool
movie
people.
reminds me of Pootie Tang.
Pootie Tang, okay.
On a similar note, did you ever see
You know,
Pootie Tang?
I meant to see it. It's one of those that it was on my list, and I just never got around to it.
Oh, you totally should. Because not only is it directed by Louis C.K., who I think is very funny, but it has a lot of very funny people in it, including Chris Rock is one of the people in Pootie Tang. And most everyone from the Chris Rock show, when he did his show, who wrote for or acted in the Chris Rock show, including Wanda Sykes, she's in it also.
Oh, that's cool.
Mario Joyner is in it. A lot of really funny people are in that movie, and it's just like if you haven't seen it, then there's not much I can tell you, but it's stupid. You want to talk about a movie that creates its own vernacular? Everything Pootie Tang, the character, says is complete nonsense. He's like, Capitan, Madame. Like everything, he doesn't even speak English, and everyone thinks he's like the coolest guy in the world. It's too awesome. Totally blaxploitation superhero spoof movie. Too cool. You got to watch Pootie Tang. It's right up there with The Last Dragon. You keep that a meter of that. It's like, oh, they've seen that. They must be kind of cool then.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not. I meant to see it.
Well, maybe you meant to be cool.
I'll add it to my list. There's so many things that
Yeah.
you hear about that people say are good. It's hard to find a good comedy. I hope we help people out a little bit with this show here, because
I know. I was actually reticent to do a comedy episode because I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I love comedies. I really do. But it's like the lowest form of film to me. Like, it's so hard to find. And they do make them every now and then where I find a comedy that I think is an important
I think it's the
movie,
highest form.
but most of the time
when
not.
it's done right, because it's so hard to do. That's why there's so many bad ones. But it's hard to make a good comedy, and that's why you never see them. Something like a Bottle Rocket. Something that's subtle.
Because it not only has to entertain, it also has to resonate. For a comedy to be effective, people have to go home with it. Like we talk about the quotable lines, and there has to be a sort of universality to it. You know, there are a lot of guidelines to making good comedy, and I mean they crank out crap all the time. I mean that's just the long and the short of it. Like these romantic comedies, oh my lord, I can't. That is neither romantic or comedic.
You just can't
to
base
me.
a comedy
It's
on a
romantic
formula.
comedies.
That's what gets on my nerves when you see a movie and it's just like, guess what? Like the Dupree movie or something. We're a normal couple, but I got this crazy friend from college, and sparks are gonna fly. You know, that.
I like Matthew
No good.
McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey doesn't want to move out of his parents'
Yeah,
house.
exactly. Sounds like a bad
and
sitcom.
You're trying to date him? Why? Good God, yeah, that's like something I've really seen. That's why stuff like you see stuff like Office Space really works with people, because that's another movie that came out and people didn't give it much. But if you walk into a workspace with people, and it mostly in an office, but also in a regular environment, like people who work in restaurants, everybody sort of gets that movie now that they see it. You can walk into people and go, you got to put new cover sheet on TPS reports, and suddenly they all know what you mean. It's like this code word for BS.
I think we can all relate to that.
And if you say that in an office, the guy who doesn't get it is the guy who actually doesn't get it.
I think we can all relate to that feeling of having people in charge of you that you don't necessarily respect.
Accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment.
Hello, Peter. What's happening? We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah. You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all TPS reports now before they go out. Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here. I just forgot. But it's not shipping out till tomorrow, so there's no problem.
Yeah. If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great. And I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo. Okay?
Yeah, no, I have the memo. I got it.
And doing something with your life that doesn't make you happy,
Office Space
and how you
is
have to
another
make
one that
compromises
it's
with
not.
that.
It's become more accepted. When it was first out years ago, it was definitely an underrated movie. It didn't do well at all. until it came out on video.
But now you meet people all over the place who swear by that movie. And it's almost like if you're in an office and someone hasn't seen that movie, you're like, what's wrong with you?
So,
like, how are you supposed to know what makes you a phony in this place if you haven't seen Office Space?
we should definitely add that
Office
to the
Space
list.
lays it
man.
all out.
That's Mike Judge at his height. And I love Mike Judge.
It is him at his height, and I love a lot of the stuff that he has done, but that, to me, is the thing that's really, that he really tapped into it.
He's such
that's
a
like-
genius
and
at
also that
recognizing
stuff like
elements that make you human. Just normal American societal things that other people,
the little
very
things. There's a
little
part
things.
at the very beginning where the guy is listening to the rap music. He's
Yeah.
like a white guy, and he's like
And he's-
singing along.
it's
to the
hardcore
music,
rap,
and all of a
too.
sudden,
It's like gangsta stuff.
there's- Yeah, just completely. And all of a sudden, like, there's a guy by the side of the road, and he's black, and he's selling flowers. And this all of a sudden he turns his radio down and slowly locks his door. It's like such a sad but real commentary you see where it's like he was trying to be all hardcore for just a second. And then you see he's afraid of the guy who sells flowers. That's perfect.
I love Mike Judge.
And it's also a very quotable movie. It's also got a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
good lines, and a lot of funny people are in it.
Michael Bolton?
That's me.
Wow, is that your real name?
Yeah.
So are you related to that singer guy?
No, it's just a coincidence.
Oh.
No one in this country can ever pronounce my name right. It's not that hard. Nainanajad.
Yeah, well, at least your name isn't Michael Bolton.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that name.
There was nothing wrong with it until I was about 12 years old, and that no-talent ass clown became famous and started winning Grammys.
Why don't you just go by Mike instead of Michael?
No way. Why should I change? He's the one who sucks.
Those are the elements that really stand out, you know. Is it relatable? Can everybody get the position of it? You know, is it funny? Is it written funny? Meaning, are the characters funny? And does it have good dialogue? Those are like the three crucial elements of a good comedy.
Yeah,
right
dialogue's
there.
key.
Do they get
All
it?
the movies I
Do they
love
think it's
have
funny?
very clever
Can
dialogue.
they quote it? Because I'll tell you a movie that's just like Office Space that I hate. And it's a movie called Waiting. Have you seen this movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I
And it's
have,
about people
yeah.
who work in a
I don't
restaurant.
think it's just like Office Space.
No,
I
what
mean, it
I
has
mean
a-
is
I guess it's
that
coming from that same
the cross
place
section
where they're
that tries
annoyed at
to
their
appeal
workplace.
to is that it's trying to appeal to people who have a similar kind of job, and that. But the difference with Office Space is whether or not you've worked in an office or whether or not you've worked in a restaurant, you get that. You get what it's like because everybody's had a job that they felt that way. Everybody's been at that point in their life. But with Waiting, not only was it not funny to me, but I had people come up going, well, if you've worked in a restaurant before, you'd find it funny. It's like, that's why it's not funny.
Yeah.
That's like me telling
Yeah.
you a joke and going, oh, well, if you were me, you'd see how that was funny. Like, well, of course. The concept is that you present it to me in a way that it appeals to me. I understand how it applies to me. That's
yeah, it
common.
has to be universal a little bit.
Yeah, at least to the point where even if I don't agree with what you're saying, I get what you're saying. And I get where it's true to some point. You know, if you have to say, oh, well, you had to do this, you know, you had to be there in a movie. That movie actually has the excuse that you had to be there. It's like, I had to be living the life of the writer to get the movie? Oh, that makes me mad.
And even that movie was better than the other one they did, that one with Dane Cook where he works in a big box store of some
Same
kind.
deal, though, right? I haven't seen that movie, but I'm guessing it's the same concept.
Oh, yeah, it is, except it's not as good. That's what's sad. At
Lord.
least Waiting,
What
I'll
is
give
with
that
Dane
Waiting
Cook?
had a
He was
couple
in
of
that
funny
Waiting-
moments.
He was in that Waiting movie, too. Dane Cook. And then his new movie, apparently, is just about how many times we can see Jessica Alba rip her pants off. What is
Hey,
going on?
I'm there.
I'm there, too, but I'm just saying, why
You had
bother
me at
paying
hello.
Dane Cook? Anybody could be in that movie.
Yeah, for real.
If all you're going to do is show Jessica Alba in her panties like 9 times in a 2-second clip, I don't think we need to pay Dane Cook to come and be in this movie. I don't think it
I
has
would
to be
also,
funny at all.
I don't know. I don't guess it's underrated, but I would put Best of Show on there.
Well,
it's underrated in that it's not very popular with the average person, I guess.
would say
it's not
that anything by Christopher Guest you should check out if you're serious about, especially deadpan kind of humor, like Spinal Tap, because all he has done, he's got a brilliant career where almost every movie he's done has been like a mockumentary style movie. Now, he didn't direct Spinal Tap, but he did write it. He did co-write it.
Yeah.
And that was Rob Reiner.
And
who
he
directed it.
he totally sells it too. He's the best part of it.
Oh, yeah,
so.
Disco to 11. That's like the best. Disco to 11.
Another example of a great character that's just so clueless that it's endearing.
It's also a great example of if you ever hear someone quote Spinal Tap, that'll be the quote. You hear people to this day sometimes go Disco to 11. Because it's just such a ridiculous line. And if you don't know the line, then go watch the movie. Get hip.
But Best of Show
Best of Show is a good one. He did a good movie that
awesome.
was not a mockumentary called The Big Picture, which is a really awesome sort of indictment of the way movies get made.
Is that a good one? I haven't seen that one.
I've always enjoyed that movie, and I've always related to that movie in my brief effort to make a movie. I think that except for the part where he is successful at the end. I think I, to some degree, ran into every element of that movie in talking to people about trying to make a movie.
Oh yeah.
So I really feel for that movie. But that's a good one. And anything, the Christopher Guest movies he's made since Best in Show is probably the best of those kind of movies he's made. But A Mighty Wind is pretty funny.
It's all right.
And,
I like Waiting for Guffman. That's a pretty good one.
Waiting for Guffman, which came out before Best in Show, is really
those
funny.
Those are the two.
But he's really funny in that too. His character, he's like, "You're bastard people. You're not even good people at all. You're just bastard people, and I hate you."
Yeah.
He's just such a great character.
So what I'm understanding here, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're not giving me any money. So now I'm left basically with nothing. I'm left with zero, what can I do with zero? What can I can't do anything with it. This is my life here we're talking about. We're not just talking about, something else. We're talking about my life, and it's forcing me to do something I don't want to do, to leave. To go out and just leave and go home and make a clean cut here and say, no way, Corky, you're not putting up with these people. And I'll tell you why I can't put up with you people, because you're bastard people. That's what you are. You're just bastard people, and I'm going home and I'm gonna bite my pillow is what I'm gonna do.
He's not only an awesome comedic director, but he's probably the most underrated comedic character actor of our time.
Oh, no doubt.
He is like hilariously
He's amazing,
funny.
man.
He's also
in
the
Best of
Princess
Show.
Bride.
He plays like a country guy. He's from Britain. He's so obviously from Britain. He plays a country guy, and it's convincing. His accent's really good.
He is really
and it's
funny.
hard to do a Southern accent if you're not from the South.
If you don't know who Christopher Guest is, you have probably seen The Princess Bride, and he's the six-fingered man in The Princess Bride.
Yeah,
That
his
is
only
probably
really
the only thing
non-comedic
that
role I
most
can
people
think
have
of.
seen him in.
He's actually not funny at all in that. Well, he's got a couple good parts, like I said. If you don't have your health,
but that's
you
very
haven't got
deadpan.
anything.
And it's also Rob Reiner, so I mean, it comes back around. But there's a lot of gold there. There's a lot of gold. Just anything he makes, you can't go wrong.
What else you got?
What is Cabin Boy? That's one.
Cabin Boy.
That's one of my. I love Chris Elliott, man. Chris Elliott, before he used to do David Letterman, and he was really funny, just coming in doing weirdo stuff on David Letterman. And then for a while, he had a show with Fox called Get a Life.
I liked that show.
It was really funny, and it lasted like a season and a half.
He's like Andy Richter, and that a dude that's just funny, but they never can get a break.
Andy Richter also had a very funny short-lived show on Fox.
Yeah.
Called Andy Richter Controls the Universe, and they haven't even put that out on DVD. I'd buy that on DVD if they'd put it out. That was a really funny show. And Andy Richter, man, he keeps trying, and he's been in so many things, so many shows.
Well, because everyone likes him, and everyone knows he's funny, but they can't find
Can't
find something that works.
Weird.
But Cabin Boy, man, I don't know. I like Cabin Boy, but woo, I don't know if I'd recommend that to the average fan.
I don't know if we have average fans. To me, we're beyond intermediate level.
So
all right?
stupid.
We started the show accidentally talking about the dark backward.
I think it's cool though because we're mentioning stuff like Best of Show, which is a fairly, it's like an intellectually solid kind of thing. And then you go to Cabin Boy, like wow, these guys, they're all over the map.
Well, yeah, really. I'm just spinning the dial, folks. I don't know what you're into.
Look, I am in desperate need of assistance.
Well, what's on your mind, little girl?
I realize that you are most likely the product of lower-class inbreeding, but perhaps you could help me.
Oh, gosh, I certainly hope so.
I have been wandering this dreary village in hopes of finding the Queen Catherine. You wouldn't have any idea where she might be docked, would you?
You know what you are? You're one of those little, fancy lads, aren't you? Boy, you're cute.
Okay.
Gosh, what a sweet little outfit. Is it your little spring outfit? You couldn't be cuter. You're so adorable. Oh, my. You know, you remind me of my niece, Sally. Lovely girl. She's a dietitian. Hey, would you like to buy a monkey?
No, I don't want to buy them.
Are you sure?
No, I'm on my way. Your
All right.
family must be very proud
All
of
right,
you.
we'll see you, honey.
I like Cabin Boy though. It's got David Letterman in it.
It has a cameo by David Letterman. It has Andy Richter in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a lot of funny people in it. It's got a guy, Brian James, who is sort of a Johnny Drama, although he's no longer with us. But he was a great B-movie actor. Is one of the guys that got a lot of funny lines, and it's all just. It's Chris Elliott at his best to me because it makes no sense. It's a completely anachronistic story of this guy, I guess, in the 1800s, who's like an affluent, rich kid who accidentally falls in with this fishing ship and has to be their cabin boy, and he has this ridiculous sort of, if you can imagine Pee-wee's Big Adventure, that kind of adventure. And it is also executive produced by Tim Burton, the movie. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So that influence is not accidental. So should I pick? Okay, well now if we want to come up to something nicer, I guess I'll mention Little Miss Sunshine, which I think is an awesome movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Well, you need to get cracking.
I know,
What is
man.
it? No,
I'm not cool.
Get Pootie Tang and Little Miss Sunshine in the same shipment. That'll really set your senses on fire. But that's a great movie. It's not only very funny. Well, you got Steve Carell.
Yeah, Steve
You got
Carell.
Greg Kinnear is in the movie.
I like him too. So
You know, everyone in the movie. Toni Collette is in the movie. They're all really funny in the movie, and it's also really touching. It's everything movies should be. Little Miss Sunshine is, I call it a comedy, but it's also, very dramatic. It's what I think you should have in movies because it entertains on every level. It also stimulates you emotionally on every level, I think. And I should mention, since I'm on that subject, As Good as It Gets is another movie that I think is just like that.
yeah,
Where
yeah.
really funny lines. I can quote lines from As Good as It Gets, and people they get it. When I'm out and about, I can say stuff. Go sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
This is we're getting into the more grown-up-y kind of movies now.
You balked at Cabin Boy.
No, I didn't balk.
I got
was
a
just saying-
range.
yeah, but you got to admit, Cabin Boy is about as ridiculous as you can get.
It's a comedy. What did I just say? Comedy is the lowest form of film.
I don't see.
Yeah, I've cited exceptions like Little Miss Sunshine and As Good as It Gets, where comedies can be the height of film. But I think as a genre, comedy runs the gamut for better or worse. Like, Cannibal the Musical, I think is a great comedy. I don't think it's a great film.
If you're gonna go with those guys, I'd say Team America. I don't know if Team America would count as underrated, but I don't know that many people that have seen it. It's certainly
I think
not
more
a.
people could be watching puppet movies. You put puppets in a movie, you're splitting your audience. That's just a fact. That's like my mom. She won't watch a movie in black and white. She's not gonna watch a movie about puppets.
Well, you're missing out because I mean, to me, those guys are already super funny. I really love everything they do, but this to me is way funnier than any of the South Park stuff. Yeah, if you don't watch this because of puppets, that's part of what makes it funny.
Then you're
so
missing
you're really
the gag
missing
completely.
out. That's the
This ain't Meet the Feebles. There was a movie called Meet the Feebles where they tried to do, Pete Jackson, who did The Lord of the Rings, tried to do, a Muppet style movie, and it was all gross and gritty and hardcore. That
horrible.
movie's awful.
Oh, it's
that
horrible.
movie should be noted for its awfulness. Like, I actually think that movie may be important in the history of movies because it's so horrible.
Well, it's hard to offend me in a movie because I'm pretty much like whatever. I enjoy everything, but oh my God, even that movie was like, I don't think I want to finish this.
That movie crosses some boundaries.
I feel uncomfortable with how gross this is.
Yeah, I feel uncomfortable with people who like this movie.
Yeah, it's like, really disturbing when someone.
It's like people who watch Reservoir Dogs because they find it very entertaining. I'm like,
yeah, when that guy gets his ear cut off, that is hilarious.
I know.
Yeah, but Team America, check it out. That's all I'm saying.
Right up there with Joe Dirt.
You gonna put Joe Dirt on the list?
I put it out there. It's out there now. You know what I like about Joe Dirt though is like this is another movie that I watched and I didn't really think much about it when I first saw it. But the more you watch it, the more endearing the lines become.
Yeah.
Like can't have no in your heart. Oh, way you make it. That's what I like about that is that there's a scene in Joe Dirt where they illustrate what I think is one of the most important rules in comedy, which is this. Besides the fact that timing is important, you can make a joke funny if you just keep repeating.
Sometimes.
If you do it right. You do it right. There's a moment where he runs into like this Cajun guy and he's like, I thought I was gonna find my home, and the guy's like, wow.
Now, home where you made?
You like to see homos naked?
Home and where you make it.
Yeah, you like to see homos naked. That's cool, man. Whatever.
No. Home and where you make it. Home, where you make it.
Oh.
Everybody know that. Goddamn, boy.
Guy likes to see homos naked. That don't help me.
And it's just there's nothing clever about that joke except that they don't let it go. It's like pausing for a laugh until you get it.
I've always been a big fan of the punchline repeat. Like Bill Maher will do that. He'll say a joke, and if no one laughs, he'll repeat the punchline, and then he'll say it again.
Yeah, well, you don't want to do that, but
until people laugh.
You want to find a way to keep recycling it till you sell it. That's what I like about it. Slight variations on the punchline each time. But there's something and on the same run, a lot of people like this better than Joe Dirt, and I like it. I don't know if I like it better than Joe Dirt, but there's a movie called Run, Ronnie, Run.
Not familiar with
that. It's just like Joe Dirt, except that it's not trying to be endearing to the audience. It's the guys from Mr. Show, David Cross and Bob Odenkirk.
Oh, that's cool.
Made this movie, and it's actually a segment from the show that they expanded into a movie. But basically, this guy David Cross is like a total like mullet-headed trailer park guy, and he gets arrested all the time. And finally, this TV producer comes in, and they're like, well, maybe we can capitalize on this, and they actually have him go from city to city and get arrested on camera, and that's his show.
Interesting.
Like through the whole thing. And it's just their style of humor. So
I like those
very,
guys.
Very funny, very, very wild and fun to watch.
I feel bad that I haven't heard of this because I like those guys.
You'd probably enjoy it. I think you'd dig it. But get that. Run, Ronnie, Run is the name of the movie. It's not as popular as Joe Dirt. You can't find it very many places.
Yeah, it's probably not on Comedy
really
Central
funny.
every weekend like Joe Dirt is.
Like Joe Dirt, yeah. You've seen Joe Dirt whether or not you want to, which is the real reason it doesn't belong on this list.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you've seen Joe Dirt. Comedy Central is the new superstation. It's sort of like if you have HBO, Anchorman is a movie that I think is an awesome new comedy. Like, very quotable, very funny. But if you have HBO, like me, you've seen it 100 times. Like Napoleon Dynamite. No one's finding that under a rock. Everyone has heard of it.
Yeah. Another great movie, but can't say it's
awesome.
Underrated because everyone loves it.
I wish they made more movies like that. I don't know where a comedy like Napoleon Dynamite comes from.
I mean, because Napoleon was, as weird as it was so realistic. And that, I mean, I don't know, not everybody, but I knew that guy. That was my high school. I mean, everything in that was so...
to some degree, not to that extreme, but to some degree, everybody's been that guy or felt like him.
Yeah.
You felt like you were the complete loser guy.
I mean, I every time
but the completely clueless one, like he draws the picture of the girl and he actually draws her mustache. And he doesn't even understand what he's done wrong. He's like,
shading
it took me like 3 or 4 hours on the shading of your upper lip. Like, you don't even realize that's the worst possible thing he could say.
Oh wow, that's such a good movie. Not underrated, but if you haven't seen it, by all means, be the last person on earth that hasn't seen it and go check it out.
If we haven't mentioned, and then we're getting around to it. We want to talk about good movies that we find is Kicking and Screaming.
Oh yeah, of course. I should have mentioned that earlier.
Not the Will Ferrell, not the
well,
soccer.
Well, then forget it.
Movie. Yeah. Oh,
Never mind.
then we're not on the same page at all. No, this is Noah Baumbach's first film, which you said was coming out on DVD now.
It is on DVD. It's on like the Criterion collection, one of those fancy ones.
So I should pick this up now, but it wasn't on DVD for a long time because when Baumbach started out, no one but us seemed to understand that he was cool. And so he had made all these deals with these nothing little video companies that hadn't even gotten around to doing DVDs yet. He still got movies not on DVD. He did a second movie called Highball, which was released as Highball. I don't think that's what he called it.
Yeah.
And that's still not out on DVD. But Kicking and Screaming, though, Highball, he didn't even put his name on. You'll find that's a little Alan Smithy. It wasn't Alan Smithy, it was the name he used, but he and Carlos Jacot, who did the writing on it, they're not credited on the movie at all. But they are credited in Noah in Kicking and Screaming. Kicking and Screaming is, I think, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, no doubt.
In fact, I think I enjoy Kicking and Screaming more than Bottle Rocket.
Oh, really? I think I would in some respects.
I think it holds up more for me. It's not quite as endearing, although it is endearing to me. But I think just for the fact that it's about a group of characters in college, and when that movie was introduced to us, it was introduced to us by people who said, you should watch this movie because these guys are like you guys,
Yeah.
Because it was a group of people like in college that were like trying not to graduate.
Yeah.
And
they're afraid of being the real world.
Oh my God. Jesus. Look at this. There's like food in here. In the beer. There's food in the beer.
Turn it.
No, I mean, I don't want to upset her. No. I don't want to bother her. She seems really irritable, a little distant. It's like, I don't know. It's just been a hard day for her. This might just set her over the edge. I want her to like me. I like this better anyway. It's like a piece of chicken wing or a cheese fry. I mean, look at this.
But don't complain to me if you're not going to return it.
Yeah, now they had more money than we did.
Oh,
that's one way we didn't relate. They were all like,
Well, that's Noah Baumbach and Wes Anderson, man. They're stuck in that Ivy League world.
Well, apparently that's where they came up, and that's cool. But to me, Kicking and Screaming, you could watch that movie and you could relate, because every one of those characters in the movie is an archetype. Every one of their group of friends, you had a guy in your group of friends that was like that guy.
Yeah.
They all fulfilled that function. And not in that way exactly, and of course, some people be hybrids of certain characters, but I could look back at all the characters in that movie and say, my friend so-and-so was that character. And I think there's a lot to be said, and it's sort of poignant, it's not just a comedy. Well, it is very funny, but it's another one of those that I think is a valid comedy.
It's got a really sweet love story in it, a real touching love story, I think,
and a very realistic one.
Yeah, that puts it over Bottle Rocket in that respect. The love story on Bottle Rocket isn't touching or realistic at all, really.
Yeah, it's sweet, but it's not real.
Yeah, but it's very.
Bottle Rocket doesn't feel real at all. Kicking and Screaming feels too real.
Yeah, it really gets you at the end there. It's really tugs at your heartstrings. It's really well done in that respect. But again, there's parts in it that don't work as well. So you can tell that it's his first movie. There's parts.
But then I don't think he's made a movie since then that I think that I like nearly as much. And I did like Highball. Highball was a movie that they shot, and I've seen places where Highball was actually called Felix's Birthday. I think it played on Bravo one time, and that was the name they called it. So that may be the actual name they intended. But that movie was shot over a weekend.
Oh yeah.
And it takes place as like 3 separate parties in 3 different points in time in the same apartment and the group of friends, and it's got a lot of the same people from Kicking and Screaming, and it's really funny. If you see it as Highball, get it, or if the Criterion Collection puts it out as Felix's Birthday one day, get that.
It's another great cast in Kicking and Screaming. It's much like it's sort of like Fear of a Black Hat, in that everyone in it's really funny, and you've seen all of them in little places, pieces here and there.
You still see them, though.
But none of them have broken out
those
yet.
guys, I don't know if any of those guys have broken out, but you see them in a lot of stuff. There isn't a guy in that movie that, like Carlos Jacot that I mentioned, has been in a lot of stuff. Chris Eigenman, who plays Max, one of my favorite characters in the movie, he's been in a bunch of things. And Josh Hamilton, the main guy, you'll still see him in a lot of stuff. He was in a really good movie that I liked, that is funny but not a comedy, called House of Yes.
Yeah,
if you ever get a chance to see that, that's a great movie.
It's a great...
And very similar, his character, in the way, it's the lives of very rich people, but it's very deadpan and very dry. Very, very bizarre in places.
Kicking and Screaming, I think, is it's a great example of just the humanity in comedy, because it's real, like you said. The violence of the horses, and it was disturbing and erotic.
Have you even seen this movie? That's my favorite part in the movie, where they form a
read
book
this
club,
book?
but he never reads the book. That's every time. It's like, which I also relate to, because later on in life I did join a book club that none of us ever read the book. And it slowly became a let's watch movies club, because that we could do that during the club session.
Yeah.
We didn't have any homework. But it's the little things that you will tap into your soul. You're like, oh, I know that guy, I did that.
First of all, thank God we speak fluent Spanish, huh? Jeez. You know what I noticed near the end of the book, when Grady goes to the prison, that the violence, which has up to then had a ferocious energy about it, departed from the emotional violence and became terrifyingly brutal and real. And particularly after he left the prison and he went to find that horse, I found the descriptions of the horse to be, frankly, astonishingly beautiful and yet disturbingly arousing.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. You're right on. I think you've pinned down the what it is about the book. Definitely with the prison, when Grady there's violence. There's a lot of violence, and it's like night and day. And when Grady he saw those horses, I think you were saying, and it was arousing. It was violently arousing.
Otis, have you read this book?
Yeah. No.
Definitely check out Kicking and Screaming. Definitely check out Bottle Rocket. Those are my... If you have to take 2 from me tonight, that would be the 2.
Yeah, I would have to say, especially Kicking and Screaming. If we've convinced you to look past that Will Ferrell movie to find the actual Kicking and Screaming, because that was even insult to injury when that movie came out. It was like, even the name now will be forever obfuscated in the annals of movie history.
Oh,
it's like they're gonna have to rename that movie Highball 2. Man, I've got others, but I think we covered it.
Well, that's cool. We can do this again, because I'm sure there are others.
We could do some comedy follow-ups. Maybe you people watch the movies we're talking about and recommend others.
Oh yeah, definitely. Email us at
going.
feedback@tv8mydinner.com and suggest to us some movies that you think we might enjoy. I would love that. Man, I would love that. Anyone that wants to write and say anything is cool. If you want to write and say, where's Starkey? More Starkey.
Need more
that is
Starkey.
Awesome. Do it. We worked at a radio station. I've said this in other episodes. But people, if you're new, we used to work at a radio station in college. That's how we all met. We all worked at the same station. And I did a show on Sunday nights or something, and we never got calls because it was a small station in a small town. No one ever called. And then one night, a girl called and requested a song, and it's from a CD that I had, but I didn't have it with me. It was at home. And I left and went home and left the station running with my partner, Sam, And to get the CD to drive back to the station during the same show to play this song for this person, that is how excited I was that someone gave us some feedback. So
I've been there. I actually I was there one night, but I didn't feel like doing a show, and I played a rerun, and someone called in a request not knowing it was a rerun, and I had to stop the feed and come in and play, because for the same reason, you can't turn your back on that.
Oh, so no way, man.
Just to let you guys know. And to be honest, aside from that happening every now and then, the only time I ever got any real feedback was from begging. So if that's what this sounds like, people, that's why. Because the most feedback we ever got when we were just like, just call! God!
And, well, I guess that's it.
Thanks for everything. I shouldn't have jumped in. You were doing just fine.
Friend.
Thanks. Okay.
Traveling down that road and back again. Your heart is true. All right.
You're a pal and see,
and if you threw a party
and invited everyone you knew.
Let's just go out every week singing a different theme song from some weird show.
Until finally we get our own theme song. That is my favorite. Just, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend.
So we're obviously Golden Girls fans.
Of course.
Talk about underrated comedy. Wow.
Yeah, B. Arthur.
That is some snappy stuff.
Sass talking old ladies.
Dog crazy.